Big. Are you one of those people who want to have delicious meals and you love to cook, but your time is short? So because of that, you need delicious recipes that can be prepared in a short amount of time. And so I think I can help you out with that. This dinner is a delicious chicken and rice. Oh, who doesn't love chicken and rice? But do you have all day for it to simmer away in the oven? No. So we're going to do it a quick way.
Well, let's take a closer look at those things you're going to need. You're going to need 4 chicken thighs. You can actually have 5 or 6 if you decide to do that, but 4 is going to work for me. You will need some all-purpose flour to dredge the chicken thighs in. You're going to need a seasoning mix. You can either check out My House seasoning, or you can just buy some Mrs. Dash, whichever is more convenient. You will also need about 4 cloves of garlic, or you can use 4 teaspoons of minced garlic that you get in the jars. You'll need some black pepper. You're going to want 2 cups of uncooked long grain rice, about 3.5 to 4 cups of chicken broth. And if you like homemade chicken broth, check out my short that I've put together on chicken broth. And if not, I know I've made chicken broth in other YouTube videos on my channel. Now, we're also going to need a 9x13 baking dish, as well as you want to go ahead and set your oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, because remember, we're trying to save time. So while the dinner is cooking, your oven is going to be well heated.
The skillet has been heating, so we need to drizzle in a good bit of olive oil. Then add 2 tablespoons of butter that you're going to let mix in with the olive oil, and is going to make a delicious starting point for your dish. Dust your chicken with flour and then add it into the olive oil butter mixture. While the chicken's simmering in the oil and getting nice and golden brown, we're going to add some of that seasoning on the first side. And once the side that is down is nice and brown, we'll flip it. That's going to take probably about 5 to 8 minutes, depending upon your temperature. Let's chop up 1 medium onion. 1 medium onion. It's time to flip those chicken thighs over, and you'll see how nice and golden brown that they are. Then we're going to add just a little bit more seasoning to the other side. Once both sides of the chicken thighs are nice and brown, we're going to remove them to another pan. And then we're going to work with all of the deliciousness that's going to be left in the bottom of the skillet. Let's add that chopped onion to the skillet. Then we're going to add some sliced mushrooms.
Using my wooden paddle, I'm going to mix the onions and the mushrooms up in the leftovers from frying the chicken. That's the oil, that's the butter, and that is all of that chicken seasoning right there in the skillet. I also added a large pinch of black pepper, and that was just for additional seasoning. It's time to add 4 cloves of garlic or 4 teaspoons of minced garlic. While the onions and mushrooms are simmering, also make a well in the center so we can start to add in those 2 cups of uncooked long grain rice. You're going to mix the vegetables and the rice together, and you're going to allow all of this to brown just a little bit. And once it's time to brown, you're going to be ready to put your casserole together. Now don't forget to taste and then adjust your seasonings. We are going to add all of the rice mixture into the bottom of this 9 by 13 pan, or dish rather, and we're going to spread it out. Once we've done that, we're going to nestle your chicken thighs into the rice. And then we're going to be ready to add the liquids, cover it up with foil, and we're going to bake it until everything is hot, the chicken is done, and we might even take the top of the foil off and give it a chance for the top to brown. We've got the foil on. The oven is going to be set to 400, and we are going to bake this dish for at least 30 minutes. We're going to open it up because remember, your chicken is almost done. The rice has been cooking, so it's not going to take long. So 30 minutes is all you're going to need of oven time. So let's get it in there. Now my dish looked a little juicy, and so I actually stuck it back into the oven for about 10 minutes just so the top could get just a little crispy.
Oh, yummy, 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 yummy. Let's plate it up. Now, the big guy wanted a little crispy toast on the side, so I just sliced up some Italian bread, put a little butter on it, and threw it in the oven since the oven was nice and hot. So we're going to serve that on the side. But you know what? Oh my goodness. This is a mouthful of deliciousness that is worth the wait. And it didn't take long at all. So think 30 minutes in the oven. It really only took about 10 minutes on top of the stove. So in less than 40 minutes, you had everything done and ready to go. So let's get to the dinner.
Shh. I have another really easy and fast meal for you. It's only going to take about 15 minutes. You ready? Let's get it done. For this second fast and easy dish, we're going to need 3 packages of ramen noodles. And you're going to throw the seasoning packet away or put it away for something else. We're going to need 1 10-ounce package of frozen stir-fried veggies. We're going to make a sauce. The sauce is going to have chili garlic sauce. And you notice I didn't put an amount. And the reason for that is because you have to be a little careful with it. Taste it first and then decide how much of it that you want because it's a little spicy. But you're going to need a fourth to a half cup of soy sauce. You're going to want about a half cup of orange juice. You're going to want about 2 tablespoons of minced ginger rather. You're going to need 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. You're going to want about 2 cups of chicken broth because you want it to be just a little juicy. And you're going to need at least 1 pound of large, raw, peeled, and deveined shrimp. And even take the tails off because they don't chew very well. So let's get to our easy and delicious ramen shrimp.
In this container, I'm mixing together the sauce, which is going to be about a fourth cup of soy sauce, the orange juice, minced garlic, and I'm going to add in anyway, the chili garlic sauce, which is going to have a heaping tablespoon at least of chili garlic sauce, and then I'll give it a little taste. We're also going to add in later about 2 cups of chicken broth, and you can decide whether or not you want to use homemade chicken broth or whether you'll just use the chicken broth out of the box. That is up to you. I've placed about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil into the bottom of the pan, and I'm going to add in the shrimp at this point because I want those shrimp to cook. I want them to turn pink, and I also want them to get just slightly golden. And once they've done that, we're going to be ready to add everything else. I have about a third cup of chili garlic sauce in this bottle. So all of this is going to go into this mixture because we like the spice.
Now here's where I'm deviating from the recipe. I'm going to add in about 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. Now I'm going to give our sauce a really good stir so that when I add it into the skillet, it's going to be ready to flavor everything in the skillet. I prepared the ramen noodles just the way the package said, with the exception of adding the flavor packet in. So those noodles are sitting in their moisture. They've had a chance to soak up all the goodness. And I'm going to pour a little bit of the moisture off, but some of that I'm going to keep just in another pan. So just in case we need to add some additional liquid. Now, you know, we took all of the noodles out of the packets and just either throw away the flavor packets or put them into a drawer where maybe you can use them later with another meal if you desire. But you know, now it's time to get that 10 ounces of Asian stir-fry vegetables, and we're going to toss them into this mixture. And once we've done that, they're going to start to cook down. They're going to produce a little bit of liquid, and then we're going to be ready to really bring this dish to a close. I'm adding the sauce because I want it to have time enough to thicken up just a little bit, because if you remember, we did add a little bit of cornstarch in there, so we're going to have a little bit of thickening, but not a thick, heavy gravy, just enough to give some body to the liquids that are in this pan, and for the liquid to stick to the noodles, because that's exactly what we want. I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of the noodle liquid, and then we're going to actually put the noodles in, and the rest of the work is going to come with just turning and tossing the noodles and the vegetables so that we have a perfect mixture inside of our pan. Okay, we are putting this mixture, this delicious, delicious ramen into a bowl. And I think I'm going to have to taste it for you just so you will know what it tastes like. Now keep this in mind. You didn't have to use shrimp. You could use whatever type of protein that you wanted. Shrimp was just what we wanted, so that's why I used it. This third dish is the fastest, easy and delicious weeknight meal that you could possibly want. And you know, it's one of those meals that you can kind of throw together. And in fact, most of it, almost all of it, you can prep in advance. Have it sitting in your refrigerator ready to go. So let's get to it. Well, it's time for our third recipe, and we're going to put together a cabbage, squash, and ham stir-fried that I'm actually going to serve over rice. And you could have it by itself. It doesn't have to be over rice if you were watching the calories. So this is what we're going to do. It's going to be so easy and come together so quickly. We're going to have a tablespoon of EVOO that's going to go in the skillet. We're going to have 1 medium onion diced. We're going to have 2 cups of diced ham. And certainly, you can use a different protein if you like. You could use chicken or pork or steak, either one. You could have, I added 2 large yellow squash that I diced. I also had a half a head of cabbage that I diced as well. You're going to want some black pepper, and you notice I haven't put any salt, and that's because of the fact that there's enough salt in the ham for us not to have to add any more, unless you decide that you may want a touch of soy sauce. Then leave the salt out. I'm going to also put in 4 cloves of minced garlic, and then from there you can taste and decide if you want just a little something extra, like maybe a touch of onion powder. That would be the only thing that I'm thinking that I might need. But if I do, I'm not going to add that until the very end. So we are going to put this together, and it's going to take us less than 15 minutes. Let's do it. Now first we're starting with just a chunk of ham that I had left over from Sunday dinner. And I just pulled out a chunk large enough for what I thought would be enough to kind of be the background protein for this dish, because most of it is going to be vegetable. And I'm going to slice and dice this ham. And certainly, like it always is, if you want to use a different type of protein, you can certainly do that. But this is what we're using today because it was in my freezer and I needed to use it up, because we're not wasting anything. So I'm going to dice up the ham very carefully, watching my fingers. Then we're going to dice up some garlic. We're going to mince that garlic. And we're going to add some red onions. And our red onions are already sliced and ready to go. After we do that, we're going to dice these yellow squash. And I tell you what, they smell wonderful, and I know they're going to be good. The red onions that I have off to the side are actually onions that I had prepped earlier in the week. And typically what I'll do is to put the red onions into water, and that helps to take some of the bite of the red onion out. And to be honest with you, you can use any kind of onion that you have. I just happen to have the red onions in the refrigerator that I had prepped for the week. Still had quite a few, so that's the reason why I'm using them tonight. Had they been yellow or white onions, I would have used those. But, it really does, that part doesn't matter. You're also going to see that the garlic cloves that I'm using tonight had been in some oil. I put them into olive oil. I warmed my olive oil and dropped quite a few garlic cloves inside. And the reason for doing that is that it infuses your olive oil. And I kept mine in the refrigerator just because of the garlic, but I don't think you have to. You could keep it a couple of days actually out on your counter, but I usually keep mine in the refrigerator. So the garlic oil is going to be used in this dish as well, as the garlic. Over at the stove, I'm sauteing the ham and the onion, the garlic, and the oil all together. And you'll notice that when I do this recipe that I do not add any additional salt. And that's purposefully because I've tasted the ham and I know that the ham is a bit salty. So once all of these vegetables get in, the salt level should be perfect because you know the cabbage and the yellow squash is not, they have not been seasoned. And so when it's time to put those in, we'll be ready to go. Now we're going to saute this. It's going to take about 3 or 4 minutes. I've got the heat up on high, and the ham will be nice and toasty. Once that happens, I'll be ready to start adding the vegetables into the mixture. And then I'll just stir and stir. Now I already have rice prepared, and I may even decide to put together some cornbread later on. But anyway, our focus is on the dish. So we're going to stay focused so we can save time and money. I did go back and add just a teaspoon of sugar. I felt like it just needed a little sweetener. You could certainly use honey if you opted to. When it's time to put those vegetables in, remember that this is going to cook down and those vegetables are going to cook down. So I started out with quite a bit of cabbage, but I didn't put all of it in initially. I let some of it cook down a little bit, looked at the mixture, and then started to add the rest of the cabbage in. So this will go in stages, but understand the heat is up high enough that it's going to cook, it's going to cook quickly, and we're going to have it on the table ready to serve. I placed the top on the pot for just a few minutes, just so some of that cabbage could steam just a bit. But the cabbage is going to hold its texture. It's going to be nice and crunchy. It's not going to be mushy because I don't like mushy cabbage. And actually, the squash is going to have just a nice sweet taste. So you'll see the difference from the beginning to where we are now. Look at that hot steam, and it is ready to go. So let's get these plates fixed up so that we can get to the eating part. Home cooks are always looking for ways to save time and save money. And you know, it is just something that we as home cooks that we want to do. We want to prepare great meals for our family, and certainly we want to be able to provide nutritious food, and we want to be able to do it in a short amount of time. So these 3 recipes are 3 that I've worked through this month, and I think you're going to love them. And you know, like I said, there are things that you can switch out, and they're very adaptable. But one thing's for sure, remember, prep. Any vegetables that you can prep in advance saves you time. And when you buy vegetables like onions or potatoes, then go ahead and do a little prep work so that when it's time to prepare that meal, those veggies are ready to go. So I hope you have an absolutely blessed time in your kitchen, and there will be more, because you know what? We do not have time to spend hours in the kitchen. So let's get it done, and let's do it lovingly. So I'll see you soon. Leona Dooley from Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme.